Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Token Hobbs Show on Roads to Liberty. I'm your host, Token, joined my buddy Hobbs. What's going on, man?
Oh, it's a great day. We've got Cinco de Mayo. We've got Taco Tuesday. I had tacos tonight on Cinco de Drinko Taco Tuesday. It's a fiesta. Living that essential life.
I forgot to get a margarita, just my normal everyday Captain and Coke. Bad me. I really should have done something festive. Maybe gotten a sombrero and worn it for the podcast. I completely forgot about it. See, I'm Puerto Rican, and Cinco de Mayo is a Mexican holiday, so I always forget about it. Right?
Ole.
Shame. Ole. Yeah, I should have got a sombrero on. I can be Mexican for a day.
Yeah, some maracas, right?
I mean, that's what all these drunk college student Americans do, right? They just turn into Mexicans for a day.
Right,
to celebrate Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, until some woke scold comes out and accuses you of cultural appropriation.
Didn't do that. Don't you see my red hair? This makes me your moral superior.
A bunch of danger-haired weirdos out there trying to police everybody's behavior.
Oh my god, they're the absolute worst. You know the worst woke scold holiday. I mean, Cinco de Mayo is up there, but the worst, Halloween.
Yep.
That is the worst woke scold holiday. Because you get all these goddamn social justice warriors coming out telling you what you can and cannot dress as, right? And the list gets longer every year. I remember a couple of years ago, we were doing the show. We were talking about little kids dressing up as Moana. That was racist.
Yep.
Right? Someone actually went out of their way to write an entire article about how little girls, like little 7-year-old girls, wearing Moana costumes is fucking racist. Like, oh, fuck you. Like, really? That's what you're worried about? These little girls dressing up as a Disney princess? That's the big evil thing you're worried about? But, I mean, that's what happened, dude.
I remember a couple of years ago during Halloween, there was an ad, and I think it was like in a Target, like online Target stores, and it was like the little kid's superhero costume. This was, when Black Panther had just come out, and so it was like the big movie, and like one of the advertisements had like a bunch of little kids in Black Panther costumes, and one of them was white, and so Mark Dice, he's like a conspiracy theorist shit poster guy on YouTube. He actually went on the Targets and he's like, "This is very problematic," being sarcastic and everything. And Target immediately pulled the ad because a white kid was wearing the Black Panther costume.
Oh God! Is that blackface? Do they count that as blackface if a white kid wears a Black Panther costume?
Well, if he's wearing like the costume without the mask, is it blackface?
He could be a white Black Panther.
Right, yeah.
He could be a white panther.
Albino panther.
And albino panther. Yeah, those exist, right? I don't know. Cool it up, Jamie. We don't have Jamie. We're not cool enough to have Jamie. Mercedes says everyone is Mexican today. Like, okay.
Ole.
Well, everyone can be Mexican today. Like, I'm still. I'll keep my opinion as a Puerto Rican to myself about whether or not it's good to be Mexican, but.
Yeah, that's like one of the age-old struggles, like Hatsfields and McCoys, Puerto Ricans and Mexicans, right?
Yeah, and the Cubans don't even count because they're off on their little communist island doing whatever the hell they're doing. It's like we can just safely ignore those guys. But it's like, as Puerto Ricans, we can just come into America. We don't have to jump over a fence.
You said it, not me.
Well, yeah, it's true though. I can just come on in. I'm already American. See, and the Mexicans like, why do I get to be an American?
That's what it is. It's citizenship envy.
Like, if you had just let us annex your whole country after the Mexican War, this wouldn't be an issue, right? See, that's the thing. People complain about how America annexed half of Mexico in the Mexican War. Should have just annexed the whole thing, and then they're all already be Americans. And then nobody would be complaining about illegal immigration from Mexico. They'd just be Americans already.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, fuck you, Canada. You're next.
Yeah. Let's do we got
a lot easier now.
To Canada.
That's right. It'll be a lot easier now.
Mercedes says my grandma drove across. Well, she got here in style, man. You didn't have to swim over a river and just drive on in. So yeah, she drove on in, but she was smuggled in the back of a van, so I don't know if that counts. Sorry. I know one of these days these jokes are gonna get me in big trouble. Someone's gonna listen back on all these episodes and go, you know that token guy? He's a real fascist, don't you know? He calls himself Token. What kind of fascist is that? He calls himself Token.
Yes,
that's definitely racism right there. That's the only reason he'd call himself Token. I don't know why I'm making my mouth look like I'm having a stroke. I don't know why I'm doing that.
Yes. That day may come, but today is not that day.
I'll do the Trump thing. Speaking of Canada, so Justin Trudeau this last week has decided that unilaterally, right? Not even with an act of Parliament over there. They're not civilized enough to have a House of Representatives and a Senate. They decide the British system they got going there. Very civilized. But anyway, Justin Trudeau, on his own authority, decided over this week that he was just going to unilaterally ban assault-style weapons. Ooh, what does that mean? Well, apparently this ban is so ill-conceived and so badly worded that it includes airsoft guns. I assumed by mistake, but that is apparently one of the byproducts of the ban that they've implemented, is that it includes freaking toy guns that shoot plastic BBs and have bright orange tips on the end of them so that everybody knows it's not a real gun. And we talk about guns all the time on this show, right? We're big gun rights activists. And one of the ways you know that gun grabbers have absolutely no fucking idea what they're talking about is when they start talking about assault-style weapons, right? Because that doesn't mean anything. An assault-style weapon are meaningless words that have no correlation to reality. Here's what an assault-style weapon is. It looks scary. That's literally all an assault-style weapon is, right? It doesn't designate a type of weapon. It doesn't designate a caliber of weapon. It doesn't designate anything. It means literally nothing. When someone says they want to ban assault-style weapons, that is code for them admitting that they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, right? They go to a gun store, right? And they look at a shelf and there's this black rifle that looks scary. And they have no idea what kind of gun it is, right? They have no idea what specs it has. They have no idea what caliber it is. They know nothing about it, but it looks scary. And because it looks scary, they can't allow you to own one. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's what assault-style weapons ban is.
Yep. Probably the best meme that I've seen come out of this was is a picture of side by side. It said, "This is a 1022," and it's just a Ruger 1022 with a wooden stock. And then next to it, it says, "This is Justin Trudeau." And it's a picture just of Justin Trudeau in a business suit. And then underneath of it, it says, "This is also a 1022." And it's a 1022 in like a brown Magpul stock. Looks a little more tactical, but still just a 1022. And then next to it was a picture of Justin Trudeau when he was on his trip to India, where he was dressed up in the traditional cultural Indian garb. And then below that, it was, "This is also a 1022," and it had, you know, the extended magazine and collapsing black stock and black forend. And then, "This is also Justin Trudeau." It was that picture of him in blackface.
Right? How quickly everybody forgot about that, right?
Yep.
That was nuts. Everyone just forgot that Justin Trudeau did blackface, and we're all just supposed to forget about it.
Stuck like a cucumber in his pants to complete the image, I guess.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Oh yeah. The picture that you see of Trudeau in blackface, it's usually you just see it kind of like cropped to his face, but if you see the whole picture, he's got his arms around a couple of women, his hands are blacked up, his shirt is open enough that you can see that he blacked out a significant portion of his chest. I mean,
when you go black, you go all the way.
Right, yeah, and he has something in his pants to simulate a giant bulge because we know he's a eunuch.
I mean, yeah. I mean that he did that to. I mean, when he does a costume, it goes all the way, right? So when he dresses up as Asian people, he freaking cut his dick off.
Oh, we love our Asians.
I kid. These are old jokes. Don't come at me, woke skulls, because I don't give a fuck anyway. But yeah, he did do that, didn't he? So
yeah,
what is this? What does this all mean? So Justin Trudeau is using emergency powers given to him because of the COVID-19 virus in order to do this, right? He doesn't actually have the legal authority under normal circumstances to just say weapons I don't like are banned, right? He's a prime minister, right? A prime minister isn't even a president, right? Think of it like the Speaker of the House, but elevated, right? And think of it, think like we didn't have a president, so the Speaker of the House was like the head of state, right? That's kind of like what the prime minister is. Of course, they're elevated above that. They have a cabinet that they select and all that stuff. But really, a prime minister is just the head minister in the government. So he doesn't have the legal right to simply ban guns that he doesn't like. But he was given special powers because of the COVID-19 virus, and he is using that in order to do something that he's wanted to do for a long time, and that is ban certain kinds of weapons that scare him.
Right, and it just so happens to coincide that it was a couple of weeks ago, there was one of the worst mass shootings in Canadian history, and this was just one of those happy little accidents that happens when somebody wants to use their emergency powers to go outside of the bounds of those emergency powers to do something that he wants to do. It's like, oh, hey, 22 people got shot up and killed. Now, the details of it are that the guy didn't have his registration, so he was owning the guns illegally. 2, the gun under previous Canadian law was already illegal. 3, the guy committed murder and arson, which is already illegal. So none of these things that are passing would have stopped this guy from doing what he did. It just makes it illegaler, I guess. Now, if they catch one of these masked maple syrup bandits after he goes on a shooting rampage and oh, don't you know that killing all them people and setting them buildings on fire was bad enough, you hosier, but now we're going to take you off to the clink and slap an extra 5 years on your life sentence without parole because you owned one of them assault style weapons, eh?
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. The guy couldn't legally own the firearms that he used, right? That's the thing. That's the thing that really is absurd about this. These laws that Trudeau decided on his own authority to enact would not have stopped this because there were already laws in the books designed to stop this, and they didn't work.
Right.
So what you're doing is you're adding more ineffective laws on top of the ineffective laws you already have. So what's going to happen when this set of ineffective laws fails to prevent the next mass shooting? Right? And the next, and the next. And with each set of ineffective laws, you know what you get. You get more laws, more intrusive laws. And this is the kind of thing that we here in the States, we're very fortunate to have a culture in this country that is very resistant to any kind of gun control, right? Unless Trump's doing it, and then the NRA tribes, they don't seem to give a shit about that. But normally, this country is very resistant to this kind of thing, and very, very grateful about that, because we've seen a constant assault on our Second Amendment rights for years now, right? We all remember the March for Our Lives stuff. We all remember that huge push that the gun grabbers and gun control activists have been pushing. The only thing that seems to have stopped them was this COVID-19 virus that kind of put all that gun control talks on the back burner, except in Canada, apparently, where their prime minister is just able to take guns willy-nilly from anyone he wants.
Right. And they have a couple of months, I think, to turn everything in. Personally, I don't know how many Canadian fans we have. I don't know if any Canadians are listening right now or if they will tune into the podcast later on down the road. But I think that this right now is a healthy opportunity for us to engage in some transnational reciprocal black market dealings. There are some guns that Canadians can get that we can't get here in the United States, specifically Chinese imports. I'm talking about like the Norinco Type 86 and the Type 97, very cool guns. Haven't been able to get them here in the United States since the late 80s. Canada can get them all day long. They can get VZ58s for dirt cheap, whereas they're a $1,500 rifle down here in the United States. I'm just saying, bring some of them south, and maybe we can supply you guys with some 30-round magazines and some other cool stuff. This is a really good opportunity to foster international trade.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? They've shut down non-essential trade, but since this is already black market stuff, I mean, fuck it. Right? The U.S.-Canadian border is the longest land border in the world, and most of it is forest, right? Not hard to walk across that if you want to.
I mean, if you've ever seen Trailer Park Boys, I mean, they had the Swayze Express. Have you ever seen that show?
Hey, I haven't.
They were trying to smuggle black tar hashish from Canada into the United States, and they did it by building this model train, and they just had the bricks on the train. The train was just going through the forest, taking bricks of black tar hash down to like North Dakota or some shit like that.
Model trains?
Yeah, it was a model train going through the forest. They called it the Swayze Express for some reason. It was wonderful. But yeah, like you said, it's the longest land border in the world. I think it might not be the longest land border in the world, but it is definitely the longest undefended border. I know that.
Let's see. I'm going to Google this. Largest land border. Yep, U.S.-Canada.
All right, so there you go.
That is the largest land border in the world.
I would have thought that the border between China and Russia was longer, but hey,
No, because you got Mongolia right in the middle of it.
Oh, right? That's right. Yeah.
You got Mongolia there.
Yeah.
Goddamn Mongolians.
Mongolians and my shitty wall.
You tear down my shitty wall.
But yeah, it's there's no military presence. There's no DMZ. There's no border fence yet. Yeah, when the gun runners
weren't we just advocating invading Canada?
Not invading, and annexing.
Once Trudeau hears word of this, he is going to militarize that border with every Mountie they have. It will be terrifying.
Yes.
An army of Canadian Mounties.
Yes, with their bright red uniforms and their polite demeanors, they will sternly turn us away. Oh, you hoser, you can't be bringing all of them assault-style rifles up here into the Great White North,
Oh god. So like with all things, these kind of laws lead to all kinds of absurdities like I'm going to show you right now. Now, what are we looking at here? What we are looking at is an image of a woman dressed in a stormtrooper outfit from May the 4th. This is from yesterday, right? She was outside a shop. I don't know what kind of shop it was. She dressed in full stormtrooper gear, and she had a stormtrooper blaster in her hands, as you would, right? A stormtrooper outfit is not complete without a stormtrooper blaster. What you are seeing in this picture right now is 2 Canadian police officers arresting this woman because they thought she had an actual rifle. Yeah, that's right. They mistook a fictional plastic blaster for an actual weapon. And they decided to arrest this woman over that.
A fictional plastic blaster from the single most recognizable intellectual property in pop culture history. These retards.
All right. So, yeah, let's just show you a little bit of this video. So she is... They've got 3 police cruisers here. They got 3 police cruisers. They have their guns out. This one guy has what looks like an M16, right? And they're arresting this woman. They're yelling at her to get on her knees and get down on her belly because they thought she had a rifle. Yes. Look at that. Dude has a long gun out.
I'm trying to think of a way to word this. You know, it's like those memes where it's like, in this photo you can see a robotic, unthinking, faceless, authoritarian agent of the state, and the other is dressed as is cosplaying as a Star Wars character. It's ridiculous.
Like, this is the point in time when they realize, look at them. She's sitting down with her hands handcuffed behind her back. And these 2 cops are next to her. And it is at this moment they've realized that they've really fucked up. Like, God damn it, this is going to be all over the internet, isn't it?
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah, it is. We're going to be some jackasses in Nebraska are going to be talking about this shit because you stupid assholes just couldn't leave well enough alone, could you? You just couldn't help yourselves.
Yeah, now. Granted, if I was going to be walking around with a real gun, this is how I would do it. Like in a stormtrooper costume, you know. Oh no, it's a prop. It's a prop. But let's be honest. How often does that actually happen?
Yep, they've got her on the ground. Dude has a long gun.
Just stay back, fucking cops.
She's sitting up.
Oh my god. Are you?
Yeah, they got like 2 cop cars and a police truck and a whole bunch of different cops show up for a girl dressed as a stormtrooper on Star Wars Day, May the 4th. That's like a thing. May the 4th be with you.
Yeah, but they're all paranoid. They think that a plastic gun. And here's the thing: a Star Wars stormtrooper blaster looks nothing like a real gun. It does not look like an actual gun. It looks like a fictional gun, like a sci-fi prop, right? But these are Canadian cops. Apparently, they don't know what actual weapons look like. Apparently, they don't know, you know, what... They're banning assault-style weapons. Clearly, these people don't know what an actual assault rifle is if they're resorting to assault-style weapons bans. Right?
Right. This is what happens when you don't have a gun culture. Like an active gun culture.
Okay, in Canada, we don't have guns.
You get people who are enforcing the laws that are written by people who don't know a thing about guns, and they're being enforced by people who don't know a thing about guns. And then you got, you know, some gal cosplaying as a stormtrooper gets cuffed. And I can't imagine, like, the way that's hard plastic. I can't imagine, like, having your arms handcuffed behind you. That's got to be less than comfortable.
Right? You would think so, absolutely. All right, so let's move on to the next topic. So Chicago is in an uproar because they've had several large gatherings in the city, and their mayor is absolutely pissed about it. This is from, what's the website? ABC Chicago. They write, Chicago police broke up at least 2 large gatherings Saturday after city officials warned that failing to comply with the stay-at-home order is putting lives at risk. Officers responded to 2 gatherings on the city west side Saturday night, putting an end to partying and telling crowds to go home. With continued warm weather over the weekend, state and local leaders expressed frustration with those ignoring the stay-at-home orders. We need the public to comply with the stay-at-home order because this is how we've been defeating coronavirus. We need them to comply, and those who don't comply need to be reminded that they should comply. We are not looking to have police crack down on people, arrest people. That is not the intent here. Well, that's very good of the governor of Illinois to say, because the mayor of that city has something completely different to say about the topic.
It's a trap.
Oh, my goodness. Look at that. What is that?
It's Admiral Akbar in a bad fro wig.
Yeah, I don't really understand. So this is what she had to say about it. If I can get
breaking news from CBS
Period.
2.
We will cite you, and if we need to, we will arrest you, and we will take you to jail. Period.
You will do what now? You will arrest me and take me to jail? For what? For gathering in a group that you've arbitrarily decided is too large for me to be in? Your governor just said that this is not the intent, that you don't want to arrest people, that you don't want to take people to jail. So you have a crowd of 100 people, right? That's the crowd that they broke up, that started this whole thing. You have a crowd of 100 people. You're going to arrest all 100 of them? You're going to put them all in jail? What jail? You got enough space in your jail to have 100 people in there and have them all social distancing from each other?
No. It's like, you guys are gathering in a confined space. So now we're going to haul you off to a dirty jail where you could be confined in a tight space. But we will be collecting revenue off of it. That's the important thing.
I don't understand the logic behind this. Like, you're going to arrest people, really, and put them where? You're releasing actual criminals from jail so that they don't spread the coronavirus there. So now you're going to take people who've done nothing wrong and place them in jail where they cannot social distance at all. They can't take any precautions at all. You're just going to throw them in jail for how long? You're going to keep them in there for indefinitely? They're all going to give coronavirus to each other while they're in there, and then you're going to put them out in the world, and they're just going to take it back home with them. And now you've just created a bigger problem than existed before. So good job, I guess.
Yeah, and you brought up the point that I'm glad you brought up about them releasing like actual criminals. You know, some of these people are like arsonists and rapists and people who have assaulted other people, and they're letting these people out so they can throw the soccer moms that are spending the day in the park having a picnic with their kids. It's like, what?
No, let's hear this lady out. Maybe she has something valuable to say
about that.
I doubt it.
Don't make us treat you like a criminal.
Excuse you, no one's making you treat anybody like anything. This is your choice to do that, lady. What do you mean making you? You're doing this because you want to, not because anyone's making you, right? You know that it makes no sense to arrest crowds of people and put them in a jail cell. You know that makes no sense, right? But you don't care. You don't care because you're more interested in virtue signaling, right, and protecting your political aspirations rather than doing anything that's actually useful. I'm getting sick and tired of all these quarantine Karens coming out of the woodwork, pretending like their lack of concern for the negative consequences of the quarantine is some kind of virtue, right? Like, this makes you a good person, or at least a better person than everyone out there who's going, hey, maybe this is too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, here's his statistic, right? Here's a statistic for all of you. If you are under the age of 40, you have a 99.8% chance of surviving coronavirus if you get it. 99.8 if you are under the age of 40. Right? I mean, I got some stats opened up. Let's see if I can. Where is this? No, this is that Australian article. I was looking at article. Now that's some next level bootlicking. Oh God, where is that coming from? Okay, I'm gonna stop that. So let just some basic facts for you. If until you get to the age of 60, your chances of surviving coronavirus are 98% or better.
Yep.
And now when you get above the age of 60, that's when it starts getting really dangerous for you. Right? That's when it starts getting to the point where, yeah, you might want to isolate yourself in your home and avoid contact with other people. But other than that, it makes absolutely no sense to me that we are isolating absolutely everyone in this country. And to what end is what I want to know. Right? Yeah. That's what's the end, right? What are we aiming to do? Because look, people keep saying, oh, until there's a vaccine, until there's a vaccine, until there's a vaccine. There may never be a vaccine.
No, not for a coronavirus. You know, they always say there's no such thing as a vaccine for the common cold. That's because the common cold is a coronavirus. Coronavirus is the most common type of virus out there, and it has a very high mutation rate. You're not going to get a vaccine for this. And if they claim that they have a vaccine for this, it's just a money-making scheme for whatever pharmacological nonsense cooked it up.
So here's the thing about it. I keep seeing the project. Like, Donald Trump came out and said, we're hoping to have a vaccine by the end of the year. I don't know what he's basing that off of, but okay, maybe. But the more realistic projections I've seen is 18 months, right? It is 18 months is the more realistic projection. Are you saying that you want this entire country to be locked down for 18 months? Look, guys, that's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen not just because governments aren't going to allow it to happen. It's not going to happen because people are already breaking the stay-at-home orders, right? What did we just hear from this lady? Large crowds of people gathering together to celebrate summer, right? It's summer. The weather's nice. People want to get out. They want to see their friends. They want to see their families. They want to, you know, have some fun after the dreary winter months that we just went through. Right?
Yep.
We do this every year. We're locked inside for 4 months because it's cold, it's windy, it's snowy, it's miserable outside. And then spring comes and everyone goes outside and everyone has fun. Now you're telling us, oh, can't do that. You got coronavirus now. Now you got to stay inside for the next 18 months. Well, people all across the country are already saying, fuck no, we're not going to do that. In California, the governor decided to close down all the beaches. What happened? People went to other beaches, right? People crowded beaches that were open because they closed ones like in Orange County, LA County, all these big cities, right? And people just left those areas and crowded other beaches, right? This is how the lockdowns end, right? It's not because governments are going to suddenly realize that they're being irrational. That's not how it's going to end. It's going to end because people refuse to obey them. So you're sitting here talking to me about locking down for 18 months until there's a vaccine available. That ain't going to happen. And it's not going to happen because no one is going to do that. Even all these quarantine Karens who are going around chastising you as a bad person who wants people to die, who's selfish, yada, 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 they're not going to stay in for 18 months either. I guarantee you. They're going to go outside. I just saw a video the other day of, where was it? It was Wisconsin. I can't remember where. Public school teacher, right, confronts two of her students who are playing basketball at a park and fucking screams at them and says, I hope you die of coronavirus, because two guys playing at a park is apparently the reason coronavirus is the problem. That's what she said to them. But the fuck was she doing outside?
Yeah.
She wasn't quarantined either. She was out and about doing her thing.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up because it reminds me of something that I've posted a couple of times up, where you have these busybodies that are out there saying shit like, I hope that, you know, you kids out there in the park get sick and die, or I hope that these protesters end up getting sick and dying, or whoever it might be that's saying this sort of stuff. And I just have to ask, how far up your own ass do you have to be to wish death and suffering on total strangers, rather than face the fact that maybe you were lied to? That combined with the other things, when somebody's out there like, oh my God, we're all gonna die, and you give them some information that's like, no, actually it's not as bad as that, yeah, it's contagious, yeah, you might get sick and die, but the probability is incredibly low. Then they like throw it back in your face, and they're like, no, it's I don't believe that. I think that this is going to be a world-ending, world-changing event. It's like, why do you want to believe that when here's this evidence saying that this has a mortality rate of sub 1% if you are below the age of 80 and in relatively good health? Here's the evidence for it. Why do you want to believe that this is the new Black Death? Is that victim culture so thoroughly ingrained in our culture right now that being at the mercy of this 99.87% survivability rate virus it's too much to bear? Is that what it is? Do people just want to be a victim that bad?
What they want is to feel morally superior to you. They want to pretend like they're good people because they're taking this more seriously than you are. Here's the video that we were talking about, by the way.
Yeah.
Is it loud enough that you can hear me over your music? Park closed. You'll get arrested if the cops come.
Wait, can we go over there?
Is that crazy enough for you?
Can we go over there?
Park closed. The whole area. Get it through your thin
Okay,
head.
Karen.
You are the reason we are in this situation. You are the problem, not the solution.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
that was good. That was a good response to that.
Social media.
Yeah,
You're
it's,
an idiot.
again, these are young. I'm assuming like high school age kids. This is a virus with a 99.87% survivability rate. Almost exclusively targets the elderly and people with comorbidities. These guys are young high school age kids. Methinks they're gonna be a-okay.
Yeah. No, they really are going to be. That's the thing about it. There's a near 0% chance that they're going to die of COVID-19. Near zero, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. And she's sitting here. Look.
I'm trying to save your ass and save your life.
No, you're not. Don't sit here and tell me you're trying to save their life. What you're doing is trying to feel morally superior, right? Your anger gives you a feeling of righteousness. Right? People think that they're being angry makes them a good person.
Right? How are you gonna say, I'm out here trying to save your life, so I hope you fucking die?
Yeah.
Okay, I hope both.
Well, that escalated quickly.
I hope you both die a long, painful death.
Cool.
I hope you die a horrible, painful death. Very, very nice of you. I'm sure you are a fantastic teacher.
Yeah.
Whatever high school you were teaching at. Okay, let's move on to the topic, the main topic I wanted to talk about tonight. Really, that's why I named this Me Too Hypocrites. This is an article by Maureen Callahan, and it's in the New York Post. It's titled, The Hashtag Me Too Hypocrites Who've Gone Silent for Joe Biden. And this is something we've been covering for the last 2 weeks, and it's really hilarious seeing all these people stand up for Joe Biden and defend him and say, hey, he didn't do this thing. When Joe Biden's own standard is to simply presume that women are telling the truth when they accuse someone of sexual assault. This is the standard he held back when Brett Kavanaugh was, trying to get, selected for the Supreme Court. He sat there and said, hey, this is a job interview. We do not need proof that he is guilty in order to deny him a job on the Supreme Court. proof is not a requirement at all. So if somebody accuses you of sexual assault, we should believe them, and you should be denied that spot on that ground alone. Well, funny thing enough is now that Joe Biden stands accused of sexual assault, that standard does not apply to him anymore. So let me read you a little bit from this article. It goes, in the hashtag #MeToo era, we're supposed to be better than this. But here we are again, the Democratic establishment and mainstream media doing for Joe Biden what they did for Bill Clinton throughout the 90s. Deflect, deny, and defend their guy against a credible sex assault accusation simply because he's their guy. It's been disgusting and dispiriting to watch the treatment of Tara Reid, a former Biden staffer who alleges that as a member of his staff in 1993, the senator pinned her against a wall in a quasi-private hallway, stuck his hand underneath her skirt, and shoved his fingers inside her. Reid says that when she pushed back, Biden said, "Ah, man, I heard you liked me," then put his finger in her face and said, "You're nothing to me," before roughing her by the shoulders and telling her, "You're okay, you're fine," and walking off. 4 other sources, only one who acts to remain anonymous, have independently confirmed that Reid disclosed the alleged assault to each of them at the time, or in one case, a few years later. One of these sources, a 60-year-old former emergency room clerk named Linda Lacasse, told Business Insider that she herself is a Biden supporter. "I personally am a Democrat, a very strong Democrat, and I'm for Biden regardless. But I still have to come out and say this." Don't you love that? Right? Yeah. This woman that, and here's the thing about it, must have been someone she knew well, right? To be one of the few people that she confided in to tell them about how this rich, powerful man sexually assaulted her. And she confided in you this story. And you're going to go, "Yeah, she told me about it. I believe it. But I'm still voting for Biden anyway."
Yeah, that's a scumbag move right there,
isn't it?
It's like, listen, honey. I know that you were forcibly sexually assaulted. I know that you're penetrated against your will. But seriously, honey, Orange Man bad.
Don't you know how bad that Orange Man is?
You have my sincerest condolences, but Orange Man is really bad.
That's really it really overrides everything else, doesn't it?
It does.
Like Joe Biden could go out on what was the old Trump joke? He could go out on Fifth Ave and shoot someone. His supporters. Yeah. Joe Biden could go out on Fifth Ave and rape a woman, and his supporters will still vote for him.
Plot twist: he probably has.
I mean, maybe. I can't prove that he hasn't. All we need is someone to accuse him of doing it, and these Me Too people should believe it. But I don't know. It's almost as if this whole Me Too thing, like we were speculating at the time of the Kavanaugh hearings, it's like this Me Too thing is really just political posturing.
Yeah.
Right? Because we set this at the time. Right? I was making memes about this at the time. Be careful what standards you apply to Kavanaugh, because someday they're going to be applied back at you. And you're not going to like it very much. And we're seeing that exact situation. Exact situation right now.
Would you look at that?
I mean, it's almost as though this was incredibly easy to see coming.
Almost.
What a shocker.
Well, imagine my shock.
I mean, it's an incredible thing, and it's not some amazing thing that I was predicting this would happen back then, right? Because this was obviously going to happen. Once it becomes established that all you have to do to derail someone's career is accuse them of sexual assault without any evidence, without any proof, just the accusation alone, once that becomes established, then it's going to be used. I guarantee you. And the funniest thing about it is that this was done to like attack people like Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the most immune person in politics to these kinds of attacks, right?
Yep.
I've heard this analogy before. Donald Trump is a mud monster, right? And we all know it. You can throw more mud at him, but you're just adding more mud to the mud monster. It doesn't make a difference. Joe Biden, on the other hand, is running as this return to normalcy, right? He's supposed to be the elder statesman. He's supposed to be the rational, level-headed guy who's going to take us through a crisis. But for two reasons, that's bullshit. One, the guy can't think, right? And now he has mud on his face. And mud stands out on a guy who's trying to present a squeaky clean image. It stands out on him. It doesn't stand out on Trump. It stands out on Biden.
Like a sore thumb.
It sure does. So I'm going to read a little bit more from this article. And guess how many Dems will remain for Joe Biden as the story behind the story unfolds. Note that on Sunday, April 12th, Biden's campaign operatives called the New York Times and demanded that the paper drop the part in their section in bold here. The Times found no pattern of sexual misconduct by Mr. Biden. Here's the important part. Beyond the hugs, kisses, and touching that women previously said made them uncomfortable. He called the New York Times about this and complained about that section and asked them to remove it. And guess what? The Times did. A factual, irrefutably true statement, video and testimonials all over the web for us to cringe watch creepy behavior by a powerful man in public in front of cameras and often these women's husbands, yet the New York Times pays fealty to their guy. In doing so, the Times told women their humiliations don't matter. The publication that shared a Pulitzer shared a Pulitzer for its hashtag #MeToo reporting made it clear that there's no one standing for their side. Made it clear that there's one standard for their side, another for conservatives. And to address the whataboutism argument, yes, Donald Trump has female accusers too. Guess what? They get the covers of magazines or segments on 60 Minutes with star anchor Anderson Cooper. They say nothing of the way the media indicted Brett Kavanaugh before his confirmation hearing on a much flimsier accusation. There should be no greater get right now than Tara Reeves. But on Thursday, Reed told the New York Times that the only mainstream TV news outlet that reached out has been Fox News, which plans to air their exclusive interview with her this weekend. Her very valid fear that speaking to a conservative outlet, her only option, will get her further sidelined by liberal media obsessed with ousting Donald Trump. And that's really what this is about, isn't it? Tara Reid is inconvenient to the political aspirations of Democrats. She is politically inconvenient to the narrative set by the mainstream media. She cannot be allowed to tell her story in front of millions of people because if she does so, the hypocrisy of the left comes out full blown. What was Nancy Pelosi's defense of Joe Biden? Oh, well, he's Joe Biden. Oh, wow, thank you, Nancy. As though a prominent Democrat is incapable of sexual assault. And right. Joe Biden is incapable of sexual assault. What?
So when guys misbehave in high school and people use, like, we've been browbeaten for years now that old boys will be boys excuse is not acceptable. That's problematic. Boys will not be boys. You need to, cow them and feminize them and make sure that boys are no longer boys. We've been told that for years, but literally that exact same thing, instead of boys will be boys, it's Joe Biden will be Joe Biden. That is the Speaker of the House's excuse for little girl touching, hair sniffing, credible sexual assault alleged man running for president who probably doesn't even realize he's running for president because he's got late stage dementia. Oh, Joe's gonna be Joe.
He's gonna be Joe. And here's the thing about it.
Fuck me. This is gaslighting. This is gaslighting. How
Really,
stupid. How fucking dumb do these people think we are?
do I really need to answer that?
Why?
I don't need to answer that.
They think we are as stupid as they are. This is insulting.
You see, here's the thing about it, right? I don't know personally how much I believe these accusations, right? Because it's not like she's been consistent, right? Originally, the story was he would make passes at her, or he would like do some inappropriate, like Joe Biden does. The inappropriate touching thing, that's a real thing. There's no doubt about that, right? We've all seen the creepy weirdo Uncle Joe videos, all right? That's a real thing. That was the original story. Then when she got no traction, which by itself was fucking infuriating, because even just the creepy touching thing should have gotten a lot of Me Too coverage, but the media refused to cover it, right? Then she comes out with the rape accusation, and they still refuse to cover her for weeks, right? And so I don't know how much I believe the story myself. It seems more credible than Kavanaugh was, right? Because there's like 4 people who talk about her telling them about this at the time. Now that doesn't mean it happened, but I mean it lends some level of credibility to it. And unlike the Christine Blasey Ford story, where she would name people that were at the party she was talking about, and all of them would say, no, I don't know what the heck she's talking about. No one would corroborate the story. This one seems a little bit more, but still flimsy, right? But here's the thing. I'm allowed to have that opinion, right? Because I believe in due process. I don't believe that an accusation should be enough to doom someone, right? I really don't think it should. Right? Because like I said back then, and as I'll say right now, if you make that the standard, then people of bad faith are going to use that. People are going to make up accusations to use it against political opponents to get them out of the way. And they're just going to make them up on the fly. Right? And then stop telling me that women don't lie about this kind of stuff. Women do lie about that stuff. Right? It does happen, right? I'm not saying all, but it does happen enough so that it warrants a bit of skepticism, especially when stories are as flimsy as this. But like, I'm allowed to have that opinion. If you're one of these Me Too people, if you're Joe Biden, if you're Nancy Pelosi, right? If you're CNN, you're not allowed to have that opinion, right? Because you were beating the drums of Me Too last year. Right? Just last year. I remember. I'm old enough to remember this. Right? Yeah. You're not allowed to have this skepticism of Tara Reid. Not you. Right? I'm holding you by your standards. Right? Your standard is if a woman makes an accusation, you believe them. Well, it's time to show up or shut up. Right? Because now there's a credible accusation against Joe Biden, your guy, your savior. What are you doing? What are you going to do? You're going back on your standard. You're a bunch of fucking hypocrites. You never meant it. This Me Too stuff were just political posturing. That's all it ever was. And I called it out back then, and I'll call it out now. It's hypocrisy of the worst kind, and you should all be ashamed of yourselves for it.
Right. Before we move on a little bit, there's somebody down in the comments there. Andrew Neville says that he wouldn't be surprised if they swapped him out for Cuomo, him being Joe Biden. And I think that Andy Cuomo's been he's been kind of wrangling a little bit to get into that front runner spot. But I shared an article from The Hill I think it was yesterday. I found it. And if you were under the impression that we had left clown world, like got on the Saturn V and got into orbit and got up away from it. No, we're going to bring us back down to the level of honk. There are actually Democrat strategists out there that are floating the idea that if Joe Biden is mentally and physically incapable of being the president of the United States, or if there is a highly contested brokered convention, that we could see and it would be completely legal due to some squishy language in the 12th and I think it's the 12th and 26th or 12th and 22nd Amendments, the ones that says nobody ineligible for the office of the president can be elected vice president, and the 22nd Amendment saying, or no, 25th Amendment saying that that a president can't serve more than 2 terms, that we could be seeing a Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama ticket at the DNCs. Just roll that around.
Started.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton. No one's going to give Hillary Clinton the reins again.
Yeah, but they were thinking that with Joe Biden's very obvious dementia, that he would step down. Now, if he stepped down before the convention, it would be anybody's game because he had the majority of the delegates and superdelegates. However, if he stepped down after he was nominated at the convention, then basically it would be the superdelegates and the heads of the DNC would be the ones who would be selecting the president and vice president at that point, and they could select anybody they want. And since the DNC is essentially the Clinton machine, there would be no reason for them not to throw Hillary Clinton with Barack Obama as the vice president. And like I said, with the squishy language of the 12th and 25th Amendments, it's possible.
There's no way they're that dumb. Not even they are that dumb. Hillary Clinton, there's no way. Like, I could see them giving it to Cuomo. I could see them reaching out to him and be like, hey, Cuomo, you're the only Democrat who could possibly do this. Literally the only one, right?
Yeah, there's that. But at the same token, I think that with the way that Cuomo has been handling this COVID-19 thing, where there are more supposed COVID-19 deaths in New York State than the other 49 states combined, it's very obvious that he's angling for a federal bailout because he has run his state into insolvency, and he is seeing this pandemic as his golden ticket. But he is either so short-sighted or so incompetent that he doesn't realize that having more deaths in his state than all of the other ones combined is too obvious, and anybody is going to be able to see that he's cooking the books on it.
See, that's the thing about it. It's all about perception, right? And the perception, and this is mainly media-driven, right? Mm-hmm. The thing about it is that New York, has been a complete shit show this entire time, and Cuomo bears some of the blame for that. A lot of the blame for that. Most of the blame for that. I mean, this is the guy that mandated that nursing homes take back patients who test positive for coronavirus. Nursing homes, right? Full of old people, the people who are most susceptible to coronavirus. Yeah, he ordered them to take back patients, right? It makes no sense at all. There should be nobody with coronavirus going into a nursing home, right? Not knowingly, but under orders of Governor Cuomo. That's exactly what happened. But that's not the story we're hearing about New York. We're hearing about how heroic Cuomo is because he yells at Trump, right? That's all it takes to be hailed a hero. Just yell at Trump very loudly, and that makes all the deaths happening in your state just not your fault. That's how it works. So you wanted to talk about one more thing before we wrapped up.
Yeah, so apparently I talked about it last week. I talked about it last Friday with Ben. I talked about it the Friday before last with Ben about how the supply chains in this country are breaking down, and we were hearing anecdotal stories about farmers having to plow their fields under, having to slaughter their livestock and just like bury them in a field, all this sort of stuff because the farmers can't move their product to market, the shipping companies are shut down, the meat packing plants are shut down, they can't receive stuff from the farms, and the grocery stores are at like skeleton crews and can't can't stock shelves. So now we had the TP shortage, and now we're having the meat shortage. And I went into Walmart last night to get a couple pounds of hamburger to make tacos for tonight. And when I went in there, almost all of the lunch meat is gone. Almost all of the hot dogs were gone. Almost all of the steaks and almost all the ground beef, and just like the shelves were almost completely cleaned out. And it's coming. And that's the unfortunate side effect of this interconnected global supply chain that we've got going on, where you have these big stores like Walmart that rely on their central distribution hubs, who in turn get their stuff from these large corporate like meat packing plants or whatever. So right now, the only reason that the supply chain is broken down is because the government said you have to lock down, you have to go on skeleton crews, non-essential personnel have to stay home, yada, yada, yada. The only thing that's shutting down our supply line is a government dictate. If those companies decided to open up tomorrow, it would take a few days to get everything back to business as usual. Now, think about if these things were shut down for something like a legitimate reason, like a natural disaster, a nation-spanning national disaster, like, I don't know, fucking Yellowstone blows up or something like that, or something like a war, or an economic or civil collapse in which shipping things becomes legitimately dangerous. That is why I think that there might be somebody out there listening who is smarter than me and can work the logistics out on this. We have social media, we have the internet. There is no reason why smaller regional and local distribution networks cannot be set up in a more semi-permanent or fully permanent fashion. And what I mean by that is like something like farmer gets on a message board, says, I have X head of cattle that are ready for slaughter, and maybe they have slaughtering facilities at their farm. Slaughter, blood, maybe gut them and skin them too. Gets on the message board and says, I have X head of cattle that are ready for market. Trucker with nothing to do says, I have X tonnage of refrigerated cargo space. I can take it to wherever. Local butcher shops get on the message board, see that, say, bring me X tonnage of hog and cattle, and I'm willing to pay this. And in the event that you still have these states that are locked down under force of law, you might even be able to contract out private security, like an armed Uber escorts or something like that. And I'm dead serious. This is something that I've been seeing in some of the groups that I'm with. It's like if farmers need to move product to market, hungry people need to eat, butcher shops need meat to sell, and truckers need shit to haul, and you've got cops acting like road pirates, keeping people off of the road, there is no reason why we can't get 2 or 3 escort vehicles armed to the teeth to say, get the fuck away, we got people to feed.
Well, a lot of the times there's actual laws preventing that from happening. Like a lot of places have laws where farmers cannot directly sell to consumers, right? They have to go through a meat packer. It has to be sold through a supermarket or some nonsensical rules like that.
Right, exactly. Right? And I think that in my model that I'm coming up right now, if you're already violating the law of being on lockdown or quarantine, you might as well violate that stupid law too. Have a lawyer draft up a waiver of liability or something that the end consumer can be like, yes, I know that this was a direct feedlot to table transaction or feedlot to butcher to table transaction. I am willing to take the risk that this is not USDA approved with some fucking federal inspector coming in and putting his stamp of approval for all the good that federal inspectors do. Just a simple paper that says, yes, I'm willing to take this risk, sign here, boom, gone. It would be that easy.
My mom used to do this when we lived in Florida. She used to do this for raw milk. She would go directly to farmers and buy raw milk from them under the table.
Right.
Right. It was kind of annoying because when you get the raw milk, you got to shake it before you pour it.
Yeah,
But I
that's
mean, you get used
like,
to that. It wasn't any different from the milk you buy in the stores.
yeah. When I was growing up, my dad was the guy that would pick up the bulk milk from the dairy farms in our area, and that's how we got our milk. Was at the end of the day, he'd come home, he'd have 5,000 gallons of milk. I'd go out there with an empty jug and just fill it up. That's how my family got milk. 5,000 gallons of raw milk from dairy farms all over the eastern part of Nebraska. That's how I got my milk, and I'm no worse for wear.
Just remember, before you pour your cereal, shake it up.
You gotta shake it up real good.
You gotta shake it up, otherwise you get clumps in there. And
yeah,
no one likes clumpy milk.
Well, that's just the cream floating to the top. That's the best part.
But I mean, yeah, I know that it's still really disgusting when you get a clump in your cereal.
Yeah,
it's still pretty gross. But yeah, there's no reason something like that can't work, and that might be how. Because here's the thing: we have these mass distribution systems because there is so much demand for meat, right? And I got no problem with that. Meat's good. I love meat. I'm no fucking vegan, right? But with these shutdown orders, you know who's not providing any meat for anybody? Restaurants, right? How many restaurants are there in this country? And almost every single one of them serves meat. And they're not ordering meat right now. That's a huge, huge shift in demand, right? Now we got to shift distribution from one area to another. And that's going to take time to do, right? Because now more people at home are cooking meat, but they're not using meat to the same level that restaurants were, right? And it's going to take time to adjust for this. And as long as the government is stepping on the economy's throat, we're going to see these disruptions to the supply chain until this thing is done, right?
Yep. Yeah, and so, I would be fully in favor of a more local distribution network, or even not even a local, but more like a regional distribution. Like the feedlots around here contract out to a shipping company to take slaughtered hogs or slaughtered cattle as far as like Ohio or Missouri or Western Colorado or those areas like that. That nice little regional area, and then you could have other regions that would specialize in things like seafood on the West Coast, and you could have these tiny hubs where things get traded, bartered, or exchanged for money or whatever. And you'd have almost like miniature Wall Streets of consumer like food products that are like a small Northwestern stock exchange where Midwestern beef is traded for Pacific Northwest fish or whatever like that, and these small commodity-based economies would spring up. We might even see like a diversification of currencies, like local and regional currencies pop up. This could be it blows my mind to even think about it, because I'm not that smart when it comes to how stuff like that works out. But it really could be something very cool, and it would also get us off of the dependency on these big corporate entities, as well as the real Wall Street and our own Federal Reserve and the money supply that's all fake bullshit anyways.
All right, and with that, we'll call it a night. All right, everybody, remember to like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. We're on Twitter as well. We post there occasionally. And see all our episodes on thinkliberty.com. Remember to subscribe to Think Liberty Network in order to get these episodes and great episodes from the rest of the Think Liberty family. We just talked to Larry Sharp last night. I got that episode up. That was a great conversation. So you guys make sure you get on there and listen to that. Larry Sharp's a great guy. Always love talking to him. Awesome conversation. You guys are going to love it. All right. Well, that's it for us. You guys have a good night. And if you're one of the lucky 99.8% of the population, we'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Arriba!